Okay, welcome back to the Investigative Journal on this October 27th, 2016 day on our calendar. I'm your host, Greg Anthony. You're listening to FirstAmendmentRadio.com. You can listen to my show every evening from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. That's on First Amendment at Pacific Time. They also play the show at 11 a.m. Pacific Time. If you can't get it there, go to my long-standing website at arcticon.com, and you can get shows going back over a decade regarding what I call the Vatican-led New World Order. Important words, Vatican-led, and you don't hear that anywhere. You don't even hear it in the alternative media. Today, this is part 19 of what I call the greatest off-Broadway stage play ever produced in the history of mankind, the presidential elections. Wow, 12 days to go. We'll have a president, a new president, if something doesn't happen in between that time to suspend the elections, and there has been a lot of chatter about that. We'll talk about that. So what's the point of what I just said? Well, I view this whole presidential election, like I've viewed them for many, many years, as nothing more than a big movie. But it's kind of like a reality show that they give you a bunch of lies, they give you their script, and then they turn it into reality because people actually believe they're getting the truth from somewhere in this crazy election. You're getting it where? Some people believe you get it from the media. Some people believe you get it from one of the candidates, the other candidates. Some people believe you get it from all of the opinion people. Some people believe you get it from the internet. Some people believe so much. But what really is it? If we really look closely at it, it's nothing more than a stage play. And you're nothing more than an extra in their big movie. Now, one thing I've always said, if you're an extra, you ought to get at least $100 a day for watching that garbage. And if you've ever been an extra on a movie set, that's basically what you do. You sit there all day, and I've done it. And then they give you $100, and you've been there from 8 in the morning till 11 at night, and you go home. But here, we're extras in this movie, and we don't get a dime. Plus, I think they take money from us. In fact, steal money from us. So it really adds injury to insult. But enough of that. So you know how I view this. And as a movie reviewer, of course I have my ideas, but let me set the record straight how they do this. There are people that write a script. Then they select their actors, and then they put on the show for you. Now, the question I'm going to ask you right now, and you answer, do you believe that the people who write the script are the Jesuits? Do you believe the Vatican has a role in what's happening in your foreign and domestic policy in this big movie? Do you believe that they've already selected who they want as the King of America or the Queen of America already? Do you believe they have planned out something even after that, which could be a world war, which could be many, many things to move their agenda? What do you think their agenda is in this movie? Do you think it's a one world order? Do you think it's a one world religion? Or do you think it's American nationalism coming into play, where again we're going to do all the things that America once did 50 years ago? What do you really think this movie's all about? And those are a lot of questions that you have to ask. And I can't answer them for you. And I'm not even going to give you my opinion, because what I'm going to tell you is you have to go back. The most important thing about this movie is you have to figure out who are the antagonists, who are the real enemies in this movie. And the real enemies go way, way back. Way, way back. And I'm not talking about the beginning of America. I'm not talking about even the Protestant Reformation. I believe the real enemies go back even to the creation of man. and how evil was created and where it came from. And those are things you can get from the Bible and make up your own mind. What I'm going to do is start out a little later than that. I believe if we look to the Protestant Reformation, the area of history that's been distorted for most Americans are not going to do this. 99% of Americans will not understand how the Vatican, how our government officials who work for them have one thing in mind, and that is to keep the truth from you about how the Vatican treated Christianity back during the time of the Protestant Reformation and why they did it. The real reason they did it was to keep power, was to keep people beholden to them. And the Bible was a threat. It was a big threat, but they controlled the Bible in the beginning. It was very hard to, we didn't have the printing press back then. And I'm talking before the Protestant Reformation now. And how the Vatican made it a crime to even read the Bible. They wanted people to come to them to get indulgences, to pay for them, to pay their way into heaven. And they not only controlled the spiritual aspect of life, but they also controlled the secular aspect, the financial aspect. They controlled most everything that went on through working together with corrupt politicians. Sounds similar to what's going on today, doesn't it? Yes. So, what you have to do is realize when the Gutenberg press came out. Now, Gutenberg and his buddy, who started the idea of getting the Bible into the hands of many people through the printing press, they had a financial interest in this as well, and that was their first goal. They figured, boy, if we could sell these things, they did. They could make a lot of money. Well, that aside, once the book became available to people, what was the first thing they said? We don't need the Vatican anymore. We don't need politicians telling us what to do. We can find our path to God without that. We have a right to do that without them. We don't have to pay them. And boy, that was threatening. So what did they do? They had to stop that. And the only way they could stop it was by force. And so they created what was called the Vatican's militia, who worked in concert with many of the world leaders. Now, I'm giving you an overview, a very general overview, and you can fill in all the pieces if you think there's some validity into what I'm saying. And what I'm saying is this: I'm going to show you that this movie has been playing for hundreds of years, and it's still going on today, and the same people are still writing it. They're just using different techniques, new fangled techniques in movie making to deceive you. That's basically how they do it. So when you look back, what did they have to do? They had to basically create a militia, which was the Jesuit order, disguised as holy men, disguised as people doing good, when in fact their main goal was to destroy Christianity. Now, if we fast forward to the beginning, so that's the first thing I want you to do. Check out who the real enemy is in this movie, who the real antagonists are in this movie. And it isn't just one of the candidates. You can't just go, oh, it's Hillary Clinton, it's Donald Trump. That is a look at things like a child would look at things. You have to go deeper and look to see how this all ties together. And I suggest you start there to find out who the real evil people are in this movie. Now let's fast forward to the beginning of our country. Can I ask you a question? Do you think the Founding Fathers had our interests, the people's interests at heart when they created America? Do you think that the Vatican, through the Jesuit order, had a role in the Revolutionary War, do you think that it wasn't just coincidence, it wasn't just circumstance, it wasn't just England fighting the Patriots or France fighting England? Do you think that there was more to it? Do you think someone put a strategy together to create a war and then to form this, to create America? And do you think they had a secret agenda? And if you think so, who are these people? And do you think that the Jesuits had anything to do with it? I suggest that you make those decisions for yourself and you look deeply at what the Vatican was doing during that period of time, both in Europe and here, as well as the connections between many of our founding fathers in that organization, as well as secret societies, as well as Freemasonry. And isn't it interesting that the two main actors, and we're going to fast forward, so what I'm saying is, you have to even question the foundations of your country. Do you believe you're getting the truth from your history books when you go to college? I went to college and took all the history courses, and I've said many times I want my money back because they were giving me a bunch of lukewarm lies. They were giving me a bunch of stories that I found out couldn't have been true. So you have to understand who formed your country and make up your own mind. Do you think the founding fathers had our interests at heart? Do you think they created this country so that you could have freedom of religion today? Or do you think they created it so that the antagonist or one of the evils people in this movie could get their dirty little hands into this country and then take your freedom away? That appears to be what's playing out in the movie today, if you look carefully, and we're going to move towards that right now. So those are really major questions. And another thing you can do is throughout all of this big movie, we still have the same wars that were going on hundreds and hundreds of years ago, even back to when the Muslims were fighting Christians back in the 600s and 700s, back then, when Muhammad was first around. The same thing's going on today. So I'm going to ask you a bigger question. Do you think the Vatican had any role in creating Islam? Or do you think I'm crazy when I say that? Do you know what your religion is all about? If you belong to any major religion, whether it be Mormon or Islam or Catholicism, have you really researched the, even Hinduism and Buddhism, the top of it, where it comes from, the symbols, all those things? Or do you just blindly follow it because it makes you feel good? That's up to you. But there is a lot behind the scenes of this movie that make it so intriguing to a sense to a moviegoer. It's got every element in it. Wars again being broken out in the Middle East over the same issues hundreds of years ago. Do you believe that somebody's writing the script? And if so, like I said, who is it? Well, listen, look at what's going on in the Middle East. Look at now the tensions in this movie they're creating between Russia and the U.S. and NATO. A lot of similarities. So what I'm going to ask you to do is to look at those similarities. Do you think all the wars that we've been involved in were just happened because one country hated the other? Or do you think that they were actually created? They were actually written prior to the war with a strategy so you could get from one point to another to do what? To create the outcome that the script writers and the producers and directors of this movie want. Now, what do you think that outcome is? Like I said, we're going to go right now and talk about the actors in the movie, what's really going on, and get a perspective, in a sense, of what this movie is all about. I mean, it just isn't an action movie where you have this barnstorming Donald Trump now going to 3 rallies, 20, 30,000 people, huge rallies, every day. It isn't just something that's happening today. There's more behind it. And I think if you ask those questions of who the enemy really is, going way back, and basically what these actors have in common with the actors before them, you're going to see something that's so amazing, and how this movie was put together, that you'll have an idea of where we're going in the future. All right, let's get to that right now. So we have the actor Donald Trump in the main role, and we have the actress Hillary Clinton also in the starring role. Two stark differences. Hillary Clinton is involved with the scriptwriters for many years. We know that. If you believe the scriptwriters are the Jesuits in the Vatican, they have ties going so far back. They're as corrupt as a $3 bill in this movie. You've heard all of the statements. And you can see her globalist tie to everything. Everything about her is to take America to a position of weakness, to leave us vulnerable to wars that may begin. And all of the things she stands for leads America into what? A globalist system where we're nothing more. We've lost our sovereignty. That is her goal. Now, does that sound familiar with people in the past? Who's pushing those ideas? Sounds familiar that even the Pope today is doing the same thing. Now, then we have Donald Trump. He's a Freemason, although it's hard to show that. You can't find any lodge connections or anything. But there's many things he does in his signs and symbols when he talks that leads you to believe he's a high-level Freemason billionaire. Now, he's pushing for American nationalism. Yes. Going back to the days where we were strong, we were the best country in the world. He wants to bring back all of the things that are really striking home to Americans. He wants to bring back a strong economy. He wants to bring back safe borders. He wants to stop illegal immigration from Syria and all these places that are destroying this country. He's doing the exact opposite. So we have a stark contrast here in this movie, and it's creating so much interest. I think their box office this year is going through the roof. People are watching this. I've never seen such interest because they're touching on issues that really hit home to the moviegoers. And people wonder where this is going. Are we going to is Hillary Clinton going to lead us into a global system? Or is Donald Trump going to stand in the way and bring America back and do what his major slogan is in the movie, Make America Great Again? What a question. Well, let me say this. I got 6 minutes on this half hour, and then we'll get to more things in the second half hour. But the question is, I said something that movies have box office hits, right? I think this is a box office hit. I've never seen so many people interested. And let me give you an idea of what's going on. Now, I think that most of Americans like Trump more than Clinton. Oh yeah. Most people do. They won't say it, many people. But his rallies show that. Now let's go right into the movie theaters of the world now. And this is the rallies, and all of the candidates have to set one. We got one show going on with Clinton. We have another with Trump. Now, I've kept close, to be a movie reviewer, you have to talk to people who are actually going to the movies. So I have. And I keep close touch with a large Christian group who has gone to most all the rallies of Trump and Clinton. And I wanted to read to you what they've told me. And there's 2 emails here. They said, we are a large Christian group who have attended all of the presidential rallies all over the country distributing gospel literature. We know that Trump has consistently had thousands and thousands more supporters at his rally than Clinton ever had. We have seen firsthand that the turnout on her events has always been drastically lower. We are a little bit angry to hear the media claiming that Trump is far behind in the polls. We know that Donald Trump is being shafted. He should be way ahead in the polls. Wow. So we're getting a bird's eye view of what the people that are actually watching this unfold are feeling. Now, it goes on to this Christian group goes on to tell me, because we were there, we don't want people to be fooled that people really like Clinton. Since the rallies began through today, we've had people at almost all of them from coast to coast, Montana, Wisconsin to Texas, the South, everywhere in the continental U.S. And it was shocking that so many thousands, often tens of thousands of supporters attended Trump's rallies. And in stark contrast, Hillary's were under 100 people sometimes. That was the very few in number she even did in comparison to Trump. Not exaggerating at all, because we would keep count of how many tracts were distributed, and it wasn't just by sight. So no matter what the election outcome is, we know the truth. Even in the blue states, California, for example, had massive and enthusiastic crowds. We were there. And so, I wanted to bring that to you to give you an idea what how people are reacting to these, the actors, the candidates. And it appears that America wants to go back to the way it used to be, in a sense. They don't want globalism. They don't want to be controlled by foreign entities. They don't want to be controlled by, foreign powers. They want to see their businesses thrive. They don't want to see them being thrown out to Mexico and to other countries. They want strong borders. They don't want to see division between their police forces. And let me tell you a little story. And I'm going to end it this way in this half hour. If you've watched, look at America loves to watch football and baseball. And this year, the Cubs and Cleveland are in the World Series, and their ratings are up over 30%. Now, some people say it's because the Cubs are a natural draw, because they haven't won a World Series since 1908. But I think it's because what's happening when you see baseball, it's the American pastime. We don't see people kneeling and disrespecting the American flag. And I think a lot of people don't like what's going on with a lot of those football players doing that. You know who I'm talking about, Colin Kaepernick and the rest of them, with this radical Black Lives Matter group, which is an amazing story. And you can see the Jesuits there trying to divide us between race. It's their old strategy in this movie. They're trying it, but I don't think it's working this time. And we're going to get back and talk about what you may think is going to happen in the future. What do they have planned for us, if they even do have anything planned for us? Back in 3 minutes on the Investigative Journal.
The program you are listening to is 100% sponsored by you, the listener, on this First Amendment Rights Media channel. You will notice that there are few commercials on this radio network. There's a good reason for that. Corporate advertising dollars come with strings that limit program content. So without your help, these programs cannot continue on internet or our several affiliates. If you benefit by the educational law programs, we ask you to give. If you are admonished or nurtured by the Bible and ministry programs, we ask you to give. If some voice a cause that you are passionate about, we ask you to give. If you believe in any of these, we ask you to support them as you would a missionary on a continual basis, as if giving a tithe for missionary radio. These programs are not commercially viable and must be supported by those faithful to the cause of truth. Look for the button to sponsor your favorite programs at our listen and schedule pages on the internet. Then, when you subscribe, we will send you the last quarterly MP3 CD of that program immediately, and continue to do so with each new quarter. We will also give you unlimited archive access to all of our programs. We're asking you to give much less than a tithe, so that you may also send support directly to a particular program host, cause, and anywhere else the Spirit may lead you. Do all to the glory of our God and Creator, for His holy nation, the only kingdom that will last forever. Thank you for listening.
The book of Revelation says, "The spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ." This is at the very heart of FirstAmendmentRadio.com. In that spirit, we have created the Prophecy Reality News app for all of your mobile devices, streaming First Amendment Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available for your Apple, Android device, and smartphone, absolutely free. Get the Prophecy Reality News app installed today, so you can listen to First Amendment Radio wherever you are. The Prophecy.
Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it: to secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. Invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host Melody Cedarstrom right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free 1-800-375-4188.
Okay, we're back for the second half hour of the Investigative Journal, and I'm talking about the greatest off-Broadway stage play ever created in the history of mankind, the Presidential Elections 2016. Just another one of their impactful movies that seems to cover everything. We have sex and crime and corruption and you name it. We have it in this year's presidential election stage play. Nothing new, though. They've done it before in the past. And if you look back in history at all the major revolutions of the world, all the big wars, you look at Europe, you look at America, look at the Middle East, seems that it's the same story over and over again, just different characters, different actors, and they've basically moved their conflicts with the times, so to speak. So everything gets updated. So in this movie, for example, I asked many questions to you in the first half hour. So in this half hour, let me give you my take on what's going on. I think what's happening here, they're creating such a great movie here in the States. I mean, so many people are involved in this, that they've got something going on in the background that they don't want you to know about. And I think the press plays a major role in this, keeping the real truth from you in so many different ways. They don't tell you the truth about the candidates. They don't tell you the truth about anything, really. I mean, they give you a little bit here and there. And they've got the moviegoers this year so preoccupied that something else is going on behind the scenes. And let me read to you something that's interesting that I found that really will amplify what I'm saying. Because I think there is a huge conflict being created between the powers of the world to get us involved in a huge conflict that will, in the end, bring the world to where they want it to go. A one world order, one world government, one world religion. And there's a story that just came out that President Joe Biden, or Vice President Joe Biden, recently called for an all-out cyber assault. I remember hearing him say that upon the Kremlin emails. Now that was in response to, you've heard the WikiLeaks emails coming out showing Clinton and her campaign to be as corrupt as a $3 bill. It's in a lot of emails, and they're blaming Russia without proof. But who knows? I think it's been written in the script to create this tension. Now listen what happens. So Biden recently called for an all-out cyber assault upon the Kremlin. And Vladimir Putin responded by saying this, quote, "If you want war, you will get one everywhere." And coming soon after, the U.S. Army Chief of Staff, General Mark Milley, warned, quote, "The next major conflict would be highly lethal, unlike anything our Army has experienced at least since World War II, and would involve fighting in highly populated urban areas. It's clear the globalists are preparing to bring war to America." Now, back on October 2nd, over 40 million Russian citizens were participating in a massive civil defense drill all across Russia. If you go to many of the Russian outlets, news outlets and overseas outlets, you're hearing a lot of war drums being pounded there, saying that America is planning to attack Russia, NATO's planning to attack Russia, ever since Russia went into Crimea. Now you have what's happening. You're seeing Russian ballistic missiles and a buildup on the borders of Poland and the countries bordering Russia in that part of the world. And then so now NATO has moved in their forces to basically, you hear from us, oh, we're here to protect. You hear Russia saying that NATO's doing the buildup to basically go into Russia. So the Russian people have been told this. They've been told to find out where their bomb shelters are, to stack food for at least 20 days, etc., etc. And it's not being reported here at all. So there's something weird going on there. And so I said a long time ago, are they planning a major conflict? Because their whole idea is chaos. Now in this country, what they've done in their script is to bring this globalist actor, Clinton, and Trump, the nationalist, together to divide America. You're seeing the remnants of the middle class on the Trump side fighting to bring America back, while in the Clinton side you're seeing this influx of immigrants and left-wing socialists wanting nothing to do with a man like Trump, or nothing to do, like Hillary Clinton has called Trump supporters, a basket of deplorables and irredeemable. So anybody that's white, middle class, or supports Trump has been depicted by Clinton as that. So you see what the Jesuits are doing, the writers here. They're creating chaos between us here, a division, conflict, internal, while they're creating that external conflict that's going on in the Middle East, Russia, China, the whole ball of wax. So I think that the reason they've brought Trump into the picture and Clinton is to really amp up the attention so that they can do things overseas right now, which will lead us into a major conflict, no matter who wins. So my next question to you is, do you think there would be a major conflict if Hillary Clinton was selected to be in power? Or do you think there'd be a major conflict if Donald Trump was selected to be in power? Now, one of the nice things about going to a movie like this is that there's a part of going to a movie where you fantasize, right? You sit in the movie theater, you're watching this movie, and all of a sudden you're fantasizing a world that really isn't the way it is. You know what I'm talking about. You put yourself into that movie, or you fantasize what you would like to see happen in the world. And I think they've done a good job in this particular edition of the stage play, because I even find myself fantasizing when I listen to Trump, and I've had to listen to all of these speeches, and boy, I'll tell you what, it's hard to listen to Hillary Clinton, to be honest with you. But anyway, I find myself fantasizing, going, God, wouldn't it be nice if America was really like that? If there were really a lot of jobs for our kids, if there were really people in government and people in power, business people that didn't want to leave, and America could grow again, and we had a good financial, solid situations. People could buy homes. People could live happy without all of the killing in the inner cities. Do you realize in my hometown of Chicago, there have been 3,500 people shot since January 1st? And that's worse than in Baghdad. I mean, it's like a war zone. And i.e., the scenario is being played out by the scriptwriters, the Jesuits, this chaos between, again, they're creating the racial strife, black against white, rich against poor, etc., etc. And what we're seeing is that same chaos going on overseas. And the question I have to you is, do you think you'd be better off if Hillary Clinton, their actress, was put into power, or Donald Trump was put into power? And do you think there'd be any difference at all? My next question is, do you think they control both? And if so, who are the people that control them? Interesting stories. Well, listen, I wanted to do one thing. I find it interesting that when you look at these two actors, one of them is, they bill the woman as the first woman to be president of the United States. And there are going to be a lot of people that vote just for that reason, which is absolutely crazy. Especially when you want to have, I would love to see a woman in power, but not her. Let's just say that. But anyway, they're playing something really serious here, because even if it's a movie, the health of an actor or an actress is important. And if you're in a movie and you're getting paid millions of dollars, you don't want the actress to keel over during the middle of the shooting of the movie, because your movie's over and you lost millions of dollars. Well, I think the same thing's going on with Hillary. I think she's very ill, and they're just dragging her to the finish line, hopefully, that she'll be able to finish this movie. And I've got a little clip here I want to play by a doctor who's looked at her health. And I'm going to play about 10 minutes of this 25-minute. This doctor lays out 10 points proving that Hillary Clinton is very ill and has Parkinson's. And many of her that's why I don't think she's out on the campaign trail much. But anyway, let's listen to what he has to say.
Welcome to VidZ.com. My name is Ted Noel. I'm a medical doctor with 36 years of experience, but I am not Hillary Clinton's treating physician. So I can't claim that what I'm about to tell you is a conclusive diagnosis. What I can do is exactly what the CIA does. I look at the public record, and then I put it together to see if there's a single story that explains all of the odd things we see with Hillary, and arrive at an answer as to what's going on medically with her. On August 14, Joe Biggs of InfoWars reported that Secret Service agents had approached him with information that Hillary Clinton was suffering from Parkinson's disease. They've had to take steps to accommodate her disease. They also indicated that they have known she's had Parkinson's disease for an extended period. It has become so severe that they are seriously concerned about her ability to perform the duties of president if she is elected. This is a highly unusual circumstance because Secret Service agents are cleared top secret and are prohibited from disclosing this sort of protected information. The only obvious reason for them to speak to a reporter is that they see Hillary Clinton as an imminent threat to national security because of her disease. Days after InfoWars, Julian Assange of WikiLeaks released Hillary Clinton emails where she directs State Department staff to research new drugs to treat Parkinson's disease. Let's connect the dots. On January 31, 2005, Hillary Clinton fainted during a speech. Secret Service agents kept her from injuring herself as she fell. Her public explanation was that she was ill and dehydrated. She left the stage to remove an outer jacket rather than removing it on stage. Oddly, she did not seek medical attention, unless she received it off stage before returning. June 18, 2009, Hillary Clinton broke her elbow, quote, on her way to the White House, close quote. Again, we do not have video. But this is also a bit odd, since she has had 24/7 Secret Service protection for 24 years. She would have to fall at a distance from them with no warning, or they would have broken her fall as they did in 2005. Early in December 2012, Hillary Clinton fell at home, struck her head, and suffered a concussion. Like the 2005 fall, the public explanation was dehydration and fainting. But again, this is very odd. To strike your head requires a complete loss of protective reflexes. Being wobbly from dehydration won't do this. At this point, let's look at the Secret Service Parkinson's disease story. If Hillary has Parkinson's disease, all three falls make sense. In 2005, she could have felt herself starting to have problems and went off stage to get an apomorphine shot for a quick fix. Unfortunately, it didn't work and she fell. The 2009 fall is stranger, but this is well explained by a Parkinson's freeze event. As one Parkinson's sufferer put it, one minute I'm upright and sailing along. The next, the asphalt is rushing up at me. The alarms sound, the adrenaline spikes, the needles jump into the red. We're going down. Shields up, shields up. But there are no shields. 180 pounds of vulnerable flesh and bone crashes to the earth. Hillary probably froze and then fell. Either she recovered enough to avoid major injury as she was falling, or she was simply lucky. Then came 2012 and the concussion. This time, the freeze was unlucky. No one was there to catch her fall, and the damage was major. Now let's be clear here. This is not a firm diagnosis. I am a doctor, but I am not her treating physician. But everything so far fits the theory. Her, quote, medical clearance letter, close quote, is a typical response managed by a politician who lies about everything. She has not released any records, whatever, from the hospitals where she was treated. In other words, Hillary Clinton is asking us to take her word for it. A month after the fall, Hillary's closest aide, Huma Abedin, said in an email that Hillary was often confused. That's not a big surprise because Hillary had a bad concussion and was recovering from her closed head injury. The Fresnel glasses Hillary wore for a while aren't a big deal either, since they were helping with the double vision she had after the concussion. But we should remember that our theory is that the concussion is the result of a bigger neurological problem, not the cause of a continuing problem. Post-concussion syndromes generally recover. A post-concussion syndrome doesn't explain the other things we see. Early in 2016, Hillary's problems started to be really obvious. Videos of odd physical movements and brain freezes became common. This is consistent with progression of Parkinson's disease into its later and more troublesome stages. The first picture to surface is Hillary being helped up a set of porch steps in February. Once again, if she froze while climbing the steps, the people right next to her could catch her and keep her from injury. Suddenly, we start seeing lots of video evidence. In April, Hillary Clinton spent a large part of an appearance nodding her head. To most people, that was just odd. But if we think about Parkinson's disease, it's obvious. This is a head nodding tremor. She was simply present as discussion went on around her, and the tremor showed up as she was at rest. The same tremor showed up when Bernie Sanders endorsed her for president. One website counted over 400 nods then. Before we go further, it's necessary to fill in some medical background. Parkinson's disease causes tremors at rest. That is, when a hand is simply resting, the tremor can take over, but using the hand in a purposeful act will suppress the tremor. Other things that Parkinson's sufferers often do is to place their hands in unnatural and even painful positions. One very common feature is placing the middle finger above the back of the index finger rather than leaving it in line with the others. On May 2, Hillary Clinton is standing on a stage without a lectern. As she speaks, she uses two techniques to hide tremors in her hands. First, she keeps her hands busy. Second, when she's not using her free hand, she presses it to her chest, thus making any tremor almost invisible. The problem with this strategy is that it's not perfect. In the beginning, Hillary's right hand behaves normally as she waves it around to emphasize her speech. Then she presses it to her chest briefly. Then she gestures again with her right hand. But this time, her Parkinson's disease takes over, and it's likely she isn't even aware of it. Hillary's right hand assumes a frankly painful position, which includes her middle finger above her index finger. Professionals who care for Parkinson's patients recognize this as a common Parkinson's disease hand posture. This is one of the most famous of Hillary's odd events. One of the reporters there, Lisa Lehrer, has written that it was nothing important, but the video tells a different story. Several reporters shouted questions at the same time. Immediately, Hillary's head started to bob in an exaggerated manner, slowed down, and then repeated bobbing. After that, she ad-libbed, "You've got to try the iced chai." Several websites have called this a seizure. It's not. It's another Parkinson's disease problem, but this time it's from the treatment, not the disease. It's an example of Parkinson's disease levodopa-induced dyskinesia, or PD-LID. There's only one basic medicine that's effective in managing Parkinson's disease. Levodopa replaces dopamine the brain loses as cells in the substantia nigra, one of the coordination centers in the brain, die. Levodopa generally works well, but not all of the time. A freeze can happen randomly with a visual stimulus or in a moment of stress. In this case, multiple questions at the same time created stress, and when Hillary froze, PD-LID took over. PD-LID causes odd motions such as Hillary's exaggerated head movements. It doesn't cause loss of consciousness, so she was able to recover verbally. PD-LID happens to every Parkinson's disease sufferer who has been on levodopa for more than 10 years. It's a side effect of the drug, and there is no effective treatment. This is why Hillary Clinton refuses to do news conferences. The stress of multiple questions at once would likely set off multiple PD-LID and freezing events. She would instantly become unelectable. All of us are familiar with Michael J. Fox. On the left, we see him in Back to the Future. On the right, we see him off his meds, showing the full fury of Parkinson's disease. Notice his eyes. This bug-eyed look is common in Parkinson's disease. At the Democratic National Convention during the balloon drop, we saw an astonishing scene. Hillary saw something directly ahead. A normal startle reaction would lock her in that direction, but that's not what happens. Instead, her head jerks hard left, then up. Her eyes pull right, and her head follows. Then her eyes reverse to the left, and her head follows again. All through this, her mouth is unnaturally wide open, and she has bug eyes. Every element of this is common in Parkinson's disease. When this was shown to Parkinson's disease patients and caregivers, there was no doubt. This is probably a freeze where PD-LID caused an oculogyrate crisis. A week or so later, Hillary declared that she had, quote, short-circuited, closed quote, a false response to Chris Wallace of Fox News. That's a very strange comment, since the term short-circuit is not in slang usage. but it is used to describe what's going on in the brain of Parkinson's patients. It's likely that Hillary heard it in a visit to her doctor and simply repeated it uncritically, not realizing that she was revealing another view into her Parkinson's disease.
Keep talking. You handle it. We're not doing this.
Okay, here we are.
I don't know. Are you there?
Okay, we'll keep talking.
On August 6, Hillary is talking at a rally. A disturbance in the crowd catches her eye and she freezes. An aide comes to her and rubs her back while saying, "It's okay, we're still here, keep talking." When she comes out of the freeze, she says, "It's okay, we're not going anywhere, we'll keep talking." When a Parkinson's sufferer is in a freeze, brain function slows way down. That limits the options when the freeze breaks. So Hillary echoes what she heard during the freeze as a way to get her brain back up to speed. It's another common Parkinson's event. This is one of many coughing fits we see. Hillary doesn't have bronchitis. Rather, this is evidence of a swallowing disorder, which is common in Parkinson's disease. When Parkinson's sufferers develop swallowing disorders, they get saliva or food on their vocal cords. All of us have gotten it dropped down the wrong way and know how persistent the cough can be.
Now, when you have a lot of money invested in an actress, millions of dollars, billions in this case, you want to keep her there until the movie's over, right? Back tomorrow on the Investigative Journal.
Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. That's crosstheborder.org.
I know you all want answers, and believe me, so do I, and I'll do my best to get them.
Despite Nicolas Cage's promise to do his best to get left behind rapture answers for us, don't hold your breath. Not everyone believes Left Behind is true prophecy. Some may even regard as conspiratorial the mainstream re-release of the Left Behind movie with actor Nicolas Cage portraying the main character as an attempt to further reinforce in the minds of all this perception of false prophecy in order to condition the masses for the play about to begin. If you want true Bible prophecy answers, get the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. The author exposes the Latin rapture origin, the 7-year tribulation deception, true Bible revelation of Daniel's 70 weeks, the abomination of desolation, the restrainer, America in the Revelation, the image of the beast and the mark of the beast, and the truth about God's chosen people, and so much more about Bible prophecy. This book will shatter the Left Behind paradigm of future events. Get the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. That's crosstheborder.org.